That cloudy Thursday in Denver felt like a warning. Liam Turner, 43, Director of Digital Integration at Apex Chain Systems, a company specializing in automated platforms for distribution centers, walked across the wet parking lot of the main headquarters when a silent notification popped up on his screen. The sender was none other than Travis Blackwood, the company's CEO. The message was short and polished. "Liam, how about a coffee this afternoon at the rooftop lounge? I'd like to talk about Apex's next steps." Liam stopped in front of the glass entrance and slowly slid the phone back into his pocket. He knew that executive tone too well, the kind that sounded friendly but hid sharp edges, and the phrase "next steps" always had a sting to it when it came from someone above. For the past 3 months, he'd been reading the signs. Small things, each easy to miss on its own, but together they painted a troubling picture. Weekly strategy meetings he'd always attended were suddenly rescheduled. His system access logs showed unfamiliar admin credentials creeping into projects only he used to manage. Important emails stopped coming. Even the IT team he helped build began avoiding him in the hallway. It was like watching himself being erased, first from tools, then conversations, then decisions. Liam wasn't naive. He was Texas-born, the son of truck drivers, and everything he'd achieved was through grit, not privilege. He'd studied computer science at UT Austin, worked years in industrial automation, then moved to Colorado to take on the Apex Challenge, back when it was a struggling startup with 12 employees and barely a roadmap. He was the guy sleeping next to servers to keep the platform online, the one who rebuilt their entire codebase after a system-wide crash in 2017, and who kept operations stable through the company's full migration to the cloud. If Apex had secured contracts with 3 of the biggest logistics networks on the West Coast, his fingerprints were all over it, even if the board preferred to ignore that. So, he knew. That message wasn't a gesture of trust. It was the beginning of the end. Travis wasn't the kind of CEO who invited someone to coffee unless he wanted to look human while delivering a knife. The Apex rooftop sat on the 14th floor of a sleek glass building in downtown Denver with a clear view of the Rocky Mountains. When Liam arrived, Travis wasn't alone. Sitting beside him with a smug half-smile was Dylan Kerr, 27 years old, Stanford grad, nephew of the Apex board president, and newly hired as a strategic analyst. Liam had seen him around but recently noticed his increasing presence in technical departments, asking questions, pretending to understand everything, and now he was already in the room, before the coffee was even served. That told Liam everything he needed to know. "Liam, thanks for coming, man," Travis said, with that rehearsed investor meeting grin. "Apex is entering a new phase. We need to align with the future of digital transformation." Liam stayed quiet, arms resting lightly on the edge of the leather chair. "Dylan's going to help with that. We'd like you to support him during the transition over the next 4 weeks. After that, we'll explore external opportunities. Translation? You're out, but we still want to drain everything you know first." "I understand," Liam replied, calmly lifting the coffee cup. But inside, he was already gone. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a heist dressed up as strategy. Back at his office, the final blow came fast. His admin credentials were already revoked. His name had vanished from the internal leadership portal. Dylan had full access, despite never having worked on a single deployment. It had all been planned ahead of time. And to top it off, a sealed envelope was waiting on his desk, prepared by the legal team. NDA, termination documents, and a clause demanding full transfer of intellectual property, including Nexus Flow, the automation system Liam had designed in Apex's early days, now the backbone of the company's logistics. But Liam knew the truth. The core architecture of Nexus Flow had been created before he ever joined Apex. It started as a personal side project, developed during long nights in his Boulder apartment. He'd never signed away that base code. In fact, he had emails from Apex's former CEO, now retired, stating clearly that Liam retained ownership and the company had licensing rights only. He didn't sign anything that day. He picked up the documents, thanked Travis for the opportunity, and left the building without another word. Before getting into his car, he called Natalie, his former grad school friend, now an intellectual property attorney in Chicago. When she answered, he spoke just 5 words. "I need your help. They're stealing." The next morning, Denver's sky was clear. a stark contrast to the fog still clouding Liam's thoughts. Sitting in his kitchen, gripping the cracked ceramic mug he'd kept since college, he mentally replayed every stage of building Nexus Flow. Every line of code written before his Apex contract, every file saved on his old home server, every early test run on virtual machines. Thankfully, or maybe instinctively, he had always kept a backup copy on a physical drive, tucked deep inside a toolbox drawer in his basement. It wasn't paranoia, it was protection, and now it was the line between losing everything and proving ownership. With Natalie now leading the legal side, the gears began to turn fast. She was sharp and relentless. It didn't take her long to find holes in the documents Apex had presented. There was no formal agreement anywhere that transferred ownership of Nexus Flow. Even better, she found email threads between Liam and the previous CEO, clearly stating that the system was licensed, not sold. Combined with dated source files, test logs, and the backup of the original code, all created before Liam ever stepped into Apex, this was more than enough to establish intellectual property rights. Inside Apex, things were already cracking. Jessica Monroe, an automation engineer, and Liam's former right-hand in key deployments, reached out through encrypted message. Dylan's trying to run Nexus by himself. The sorting system has glitched twice. They're hiding it from the Oregon client, but if it isn't fixed by Friday, there'll be delays in shipping. Liam replied with a single neutral emoji. He didn't need details. He'd built the system to be adaptable, but he also knew it required finesse, especially when dealing with manual sync routines that only someone with deep understanding could properly maintain. 2 days later, Natalie called with something unexpected. A consulting firm in Boston, Vortex Edge, had contacted her. They were managing a potential acquisition of Apex, and according to their documentation, Nexus Flow was listed as one of the company's key assets. Apparently, she said with a dry chuckle, someone forgot to tell Vortex that the system they're buying might not belong to Apex. Liam laughed for the first time in days. The game had turned, and he hadn't even made a move yet. That night, he met Jessica at a casual restaurant in Lakewood, the kind of place where former co-workers could talk without drawing attention. She looked concerned. They hired an external team to restructure Nexus. Dylan's pitching it like it's all his idea. But they have no clue what they're dealing with, she said, lowering her voice. The board's desperate to show progress before their next audit. What are you going to do? Liam's answer was calm and steady. I'm not sabotaging anything, but I'm not letting them take what's mine. With the documents compiled, the code safely outside Apex's infrastructure, and the legal foundation solid, Liam and Natalie prepared a full dossier. The goal wasn't to sue, at least not yet. It was to make it clear. Without a proper licensing agreement, Apex had no legal right to continue using or reselling Nexus Flow. Worse, misrepresenting ownership during a potential acquisition could have serious legal implications. They sent the dossier to Apex's legal department. Silence followed. 48 hours passed. Then, on a grey Friday, the phone rang. Travis. His voice, once confident, now cautious. Liam, can we talk? I think there's been some misunderstanding about a few contract details. Liam set the meeting at Natalie's office, requiring her presence and Apex's legal counsel. No casual chats, no hallway deals. During the meeting, Travis tried to soften the situation, claiming things had gotten lost in transition. But Natalie laid out the facts one by one: emails, source code timestamps, development logs, and preliminary patent filings. Any attempt to sell or use Nexus Flow without a license, she explained, could constitute intellectual property theft and would certainly disrupt due diligence with Vortex Edge. Travis paled. The impact was clear. The company's reputation, valuation, and acquisition viability were on the line. Liam stayed calm. I'm not here to damage Apex, but I won't watch in silence while you erase my name and sell something I built with my own time, knowledge, and sacrifice. He stood, locked eyes with Travis, and said, business is business, right? Then let's do this the right way. If this story hooked you this far, now's the perfect time to join our community. Subscribe and stick around to see how Liam flips the board. And tell me, have you ever been in a situation like this? Ever had your work stolen or your value ignored? Drop it in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone out there needs to hear. In the weeks following the meeting with Apex's legal team, the entire company shifted into damage control mode. Travis, under pressure to keep Nexus Flow and avoid legal fallout before the acquisition, tried to rush a licensing agreement. But Liam now held the upper hand, and for the first time in a long while he didn't feel the need to rush to protect what was his. Jessica continued sending quiet updates. Dylan had vanished from technical meetings after a series of failures that culminated in Apex's Phoenix distribution center, freezing operations for over 7 hours. The loss? Nearly $300,000 in penalties and strained contracts. Internally, everyone knew the system had crashed, because Dylan and the external consultant simply couldn't grasp how it worked. Nexus Flow wasn't a plug-and-play solution. It was more like a living organism. You couldn't just study its components, you had to understand how it breathed. The final offer from Apex came stripped of arrogance and full of clauses Liam hadn't expected them to concede. In writing, they acknowledged his authorship over Nexus Flow's core system, agreed to pay an annual licensing fee based on usage, and added a profit share on any future deals involving his technology. They also offered him a senior advisory position, not as an employee but as an independent consultant with full freedom to choose his projects. Travis even scribbled a handwritten note at the bottom. "We messed up, but we want to fix it. I hope you'll consider." Liam read the proposal from his living room couch while soft snow started falling outside. He didn't feel bitterness. That chapter was closed. What he wanted now was to work with people who valued what he brought, without needing to be burned first to see it. 3 days later, he was in Boston, standing inside a glass-walled office with ocean views, speaking with Brooke Delaney, Innovation Director at Vortex Edge. It was their second meeting, only this time Apex wasn't the topic. Brooke was interested in Liam himself. "We don't just want Nexus Flow," she told him. "We want the mind that built it." She offered something different, to lead an independent tech lab backed by Vortex Edge based in Portland, with complete creative freedom and the ability to handpick his team. "We've seen how you think," she said. "You don't just solve technical problems. You see systems like ecosystems, and that's what we need." Liam accepted, and he brought Jessica, 2 former developers he trusted, and even Natalie, who agreed to act as legal advisor to the new venture. Within months, the lab took shape under the name Streamline Core, a nod to fluidity and efficiency, the 2 values Liam had always pursued but never fully controlled. As for Apex, the acquisition went through, but Vortex Edge cut the valuation by nearly 30% once they confirmed Nexus Flow wasn't fully theirs. Travis stayed on as a figurehead for 6 months before pursuing other opportunities and disappearing. Dylan, according to Jessica, was quietly reassigned and then resigned without fanfare. Silence was his final contribution. One quiet afternoon in Portland, Liam received an unexpected email from Dylan. It was short and sincere. No excuses, just an acknowledgement that he'd been in over his head, and a request, "If you have time for a coffee, I'd really like to learn how you built something like that." Liam replied without sarcasm. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m., Blue Star Cafe. Bring a notebook and humility." On the 1-year anniversary of his departure from Apex, Liam walked through downtown Portland. After showcasing Streamline Core's first fully autonomous logistics module to a major airport network, he felt light. For the first time in years, everything he did, every idea, every line of code, carried his name. There were no more ambush coffees, no last-minute layoffs, no silent backstabs. He didn't need to ask for recognition anymore. He embodied it. As cold winds swept through the city streets, he paused beside a mural painted on a concrete wall. "The world belongs to those who build, not those who manage." Liam smiled. He was finally in the right place. If you've made it this far, I don't think I need to ask. But still, hit that subscribe button if this story resonated with you, not just for the algorithm, but because you belong here. We tell stories for people who've been underestimated, replaced, or ignored, and still stood back up. Tell us in the comments, have you lived something like this? Did this story remind you of a moment in your life? What did it teach you? Your words might be exactly what someone else in this community needs today. And remember, revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better and building something they can never take from you.